Before I introduce myself and the topic, I want to start with a secret, a statement, and a story. The secret is we're looking in the wrong place for employee engagement. We're looking in surveys, we're looking in PowerPoint presentations, we're looking in programs, we're looking in various initiatives, and the place that we actually need to look for employee engagement is the moment. Engagement is embedded in the moment, and our ability to engage the moment is what will make a difference for ourselves and our organizations. Stephen Retshaven wrote a book called Time Shifting a number of years ago. In that book, he made what I would consider a radical statement that I agree with about 95%. He said, there is no stress in the present moment. Let me say that one more time. There is no stress in the present moment. So although this presentation and session is about how to foster and enhance engagement, when you fully engage, you are involved in a well-being initiative. You are potentially reducing your stress. Most stress is either tied in to the past or into the future. So your ability to be in the moment not only fosters and heightens engagement and improves work, improves relationships, helps you to achieve results. It's also a stress reducer. My background is in counseling psychology. About 30 years ago, I used to work with procrastinators. I used to run workshops on overcoming procrastination. Back then, the most popular time management book was by Alan Lakein, How to Get Control of Your Time and Your Life. He had about 6 principles. And I was in the 3rd session of working with about 12 procrastinating students, and I was showing a film. This is the days before we had video. I was showing a film on Alan Lakein's 6 principles of time management. Now, what you need to understand is that procrastination is not really about poor time management. It's much more often about fear or protecting a vulnerable sense of self. And I think in some ways engagement is also a little bit about fear and protecting the self. Particularly if you agree with me that the individual, the employee, is personally responsible for their own engagement. Back to the workshop. The film's unfolding, and they get to about the 4th principle from Lakein's How to Get Control of Your Time and of Your Life. The narrator steps forward into the screen and says, one of the best questions you can ask yourself is, what is the best use of my time right now? Just after that question came on the screen, one of the students packed up his books and just bolted from the room. I knew there was about 10 minutes left in the film, so I went after him because I was curious as to what had happened. I was worried that maybe something had occurred. I caught up to him and I said, pardon me, you're always free to come or go to these sessions, but I'd just like to ask you, what happened? Where are you going? He said to me, well, I was watching a film, and that statement, what is the best use of your time right now, came onto the screen. And at that moment, I realized the best use of my time right now was to study. And I'd realized that I'd come to the procrastination workshop partially to procrastinate on studying. So I'm going off to study. I'm heading to the library. And I said to him, good for you. I felt that moment was exceedingly successful. What is the best use of your time right now? My name is David Zinger. I've spent about 24,000 hours on employee engagement. Yeah, you could say I'm pretty obsessed with the topic. I'm really concerned about how we connect to work, how we connect to each other, how we connect to our organizations, and the whole force and elements around engagement. And in the last few thousand hours, I've become exceedingly focused on moments and the moment of engagement. That's why this session is called Engage the Moment. How to get the most of the moment at work for yourself and your organization. If you're in HR, you're a role model. How you engage influences the organization as much as any program or anything else that you do. But we made engagement pretty complex. We have all this talk about drivers and levers. I'm not sure I really believe in drivers and levers very much if we're personally responsible for engagement. And I don't want to give you a driver. I don't want to leave you with a lever. I want to extend an invitation to engage within the moment of work. Now, I'm a simple person, and there's about 70 different definitions of employee engagement. So let me give you my simple 8-word definition. I see employee engagement as good work done well with others every day. I'm not a fan of great work. I know there's lots of places that proclaim themselves to be great places to work and other factors with that. And I'm not opposed to it, but I'm enamored with good work. I'm enamored with good work because it talks about the quality, a moral contribution of work, but it also talks about the level. I also know that every day I can do good work. Not every day do I do great work. And that the way that I actually touch great is to do good. So it's good work done well. Good work makes you well. It contributes to well-being. It's not all an energy drain that just sucks you dry at the end of the day. It really is something that contributes to you with others. Although we're personally responsible for engagement, we influence others. How we act will have an influence on them. And I love the everydayness, and to that end, what I've really done is shrink that even down to the moment of time. Some of us are more engaged with our smartphones than anything else. I sometimes think if we treated our employees as well as we treated smartphones, we'd be doing pretty good. We allow these phones to interrupt us moment to moment. We allow these phones to give us a sense of vibration. We look lovingly down at the screen. It's almost reverent how people look at smartphones. And we charge these phones up. We charge these phones up every night. Are you charging your employees up? Do you have a sense of almost reverence for and respect for employees? Do you stay connected to them as well as you stay connected to your smartphone? I've used this as a trigger because you're saying, what can I do in the moment, David? Well, let's go back to that time management question from Ellen Lakian, and let's bring it to engagement. And here's what I'd like to offer you. Is one of the best things you can do is every time you notice yourself handling your phone, I encourage you to ask the following question. What can I do right now to improve engagement for myself or someone else in the organization? What can I do right now to improve engagement for myself or someone else in the organization? Engagement is more about actions and interactions. We engage in work for 4 factors as I see it. I call them the ABCD building blocks of work. We want to achieve results. When engagement does not contribute to results, why bother? We need to build relationships, the B block. C is to cultivate well-being, and D is to develop career. Our moment-to-moment interactions during each day really have an influence on those 4 factors. And so, although I'm talking about engagement in the moment, and I'm talking about a moment of time, I don't really want you just to do little small things in the moment that don't matter. I invite you to use the moments to foster that. Although there's big issues around results and relationships, I want you to look at how you use the moments to achieve those. Let me go off the grid a little bit. One of my great teachers in the field of engagement, believe it or not, is the Spice Girls. Yeah, that British band. And my daughter was of Spice Girl age when their first big album was out. And there was the most annoying song at that time. It was called Wannabe. My name is Zinger, it's not Singer, so I'm not going to sing it for you. But let me just voice the words. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. And then it goes a little downhill from there. That's results. What do you want from your work? What are the results that you're trying to achieve? If you're a manager or a leader, what result does the organization want? And I think we need to use moments to talk about results. We need to ask employees what they want, what they really, really want from work. And I quite like the really, really part of that question because I think that gets at meaning. And we need to ask them, but they also need to know what we want as an organization, what we want as a leader, what we want as a manager. If you were to take nothing else away from this webinar, but be willing to ask yourself a number of times during the day, what can I do right now to improve engagement for myself or someone else in the organization? And you were to look at results by saying, what can I do right now to improve? What can I do right now to improve work for myself or someone else? And what do I want? What do I really, really want? And tell me what you want, what you really, really want. We're really touching some of the meat and the potatoes of engagement. Engagement isn't something extra. I think in some ways we've created what's called iatrogenic disengagement. It's a term from medicine. It means that the illness is caused by the cure. You go into the hospital because you have a sore leg and you leave with an infection that was caused by the hospital. That's iatrogenic illness. Iatrogenic disengagement is when we call ourselves a great place to work and we're not. At least not for everyone, because people have different experiences. Iatrogenic disengagement is when we give people surveys but we don't respond to them, or it takes us so long to respond. Or what's, in my estimation, even worse, is it's all anonymous. It's not our intent to tell employees we don't want to know who they are, but that is one of the byproducts. And most organizations say, well, we use anonymous surveys so people will be honest. You've got a big crisis, my friend, if the only way you get honesty in your organization is through anonymity. Disengagement is not about a self-help group that's anonymous. When I'm disengaged or when we're disengaged, we need dialogue. We need conversation. We need connection. When did disengagement become a punishable offense? To me, engagement is the diamond in the heart of work and well-being. And engagement isn't something we do to people. It's not something we do for people. It really, in essence, is something we do with people. There's a beautiful line from the field of positive deviancy. This may be one of the moments that you can take away. I encourage you to ask yourself or to think about this. And it goes, never do anything about me without me. Never do anything about me without me. Involve employees. If you do need to use a survey, are you going to employees and asking them, what questions should we ask on the survey? Get their participation. Employees have so much to offer us, so much to give to us. Our ability to reside in the moment is very key and very vital. So let me look at the conclusion of this part, of about the next 10 minutes or so, of some very specific tactics and strategies around the moment. The first one for me is I use what's called an E-zone or engagement zone. What is the period of work that I can engage in fully. Because I don't stay fully engaged for 2 years. I don't stay fully engaged for a week. I don't stay fully engaged for a day. My engagement fluctuates up and down throughout the day. What is my E-zone? To me, it's a little idiosyncratic, and it's also a tribute to my mother, who was born on November 11th. I use 11-minute, 11-second periods. You don't have to use that time. You could maybe use 20 minutes. You could maybe use 90 minutes. A moment is not just a second. A moment can be longer. It's a unit of time that has some significance at times attached to it. You know, in the spirit of behavioral economics, Daniel Kahneman said we have 20,000 moments a day based on 3-second intervals. I'm not asking you to race through your day and pack in every moment. All moments are not created equal, but all moments offer the potential for engagement. When do you want to turn around engagement? How about the next moment? How about you ask that question, what can I do right now to improve engagement for myself or someone else in the organization, and go and do it? Maybe while you're watching this webinar, you can send an email of recognition to someone else. Maybe you can offer someone else some support. So my E-zone is a period of time where I stay fully engaged. Here's the 3 things to help you define an E-zone. Is 1, you don't procrastinate on starting an engagement zone. 2, when you're in it, you're really in it. You're absorbed, you have a sense of vigor, and you're dedicated. 3 terms from the field of work engagement. This is just a little quick aside. If you haven't looked at Arnold Baker and the other researchers on work engagement, you're missing some of the very rich dynamic around engagement and preventing burnout. The 3rd about the E-zone is you want to finish with feeling a little unfinished. It wasn't quite enough time. So the way to figure out your E-zone is to experiment. Start with 20 minutes and see if you can stay engaged. Wait a minute, David. I don't control all my time. I'm a manager or leader. People are interrupting me every 7 minutes. Well, perhaps your E-zone has to be shorter. And I'm not asking you to take all your time during your working day and put it into an E-zone. It's those discretionary yet very important tasks that really ask us to step up to our engagement zone and to figure out how we stay engaged with them. Teresa Amabile wrote a book called The Progress Principle. She said that progress and setbacks are the biggest dynamics around motivation and engagement for knowledge workers. She found that by asking a beautiful question. I encourage you to ask this question where you work of yourself and others. What stood out for you? Now, she asked it about the end of each day. What stood out for you at work today? And that's how she found out that the real huge dynamic was progress and setbacks. It appears that at work we're playing an elaborate game of snakes and ladders. And when we land on a ladder and experience progress, it engages us. The very work itself engages us. We don't need something extra. But when we slide onto a snake and slither down the board of work, setbacks disengage us. And setbacks are about 2 times more powerful or 3 times more powerful than progress. Can you take more moments to help people with setbacks at work? Personal setbacks, team setbacks, task setbacks, relationship setbacks. And can you also help them celebrate progress and find those moments that really do make a difference for themselves? So I encourage you to ask that question of yourself. What stood out for me at work today? I encourage you, when you're working with the team, each time the team gets back together, ask them, what stood out for you about our project since our last meeting? You know, if you have children at home and you ask those children when they come home from school, what did they learn today? Children often look at you like you're crazy. But try asking them a little different. What stood out for them at school today? Maybe it was something that happened during lunch, or maybe it was something that happened with a friend, or maybe it's something funny they saw with a teacher. It's a beautiful question. What stood out for you today? And you can ask that in so many different ways. John Gottman took relationships and brought it to the moment. If you have not read John Gottman about relationships, I encourage you to do that. He said that relationships are really fundamentally built on what he calls bids and turns. These are just momentary interactions, emotional interactions and connections between people. And there's three choices in your turns. You turn towards someone, which means you engage with them, you connect. You turn away from them, which means you're neutral or almost disconnected, or you turn against them. Gottman found that in about 5 or 15 minutes of recorded interviews of married couples, he could predict who would be married in about 15 years. Bids and turns. There's very quick, almost unconscious moments that occur in a relationship may be the fundamental building block. If you want to understand happiness for people, it's not about gender, it's not about socioeconomic status and other factors. One of the key factors is understanding their relationships. How strong are their connections with families and friends? At times, I think Gallup asks a creepy question. Do we have a best friend at work? It can be creepy if it feels interfering. But if you have a best friend at work, you do tend to be more engaged. You have someone that helps you navigate through those setbacks and to celebrate that progress along the way. Jane Dutton from the Ross School of Business also looked at high-quality connections, the moments of time between people. You can foster more engagement in the moment by increasing your number of high-quality connections. These are just moments of time. They're not even relationships. They may simply be encounters with one another. So, there is no secret. The real secret is to step up to the moment. You can be mindful in the moment. I like what John Kabat-Zinn has done around full catastrophe living and mindfulness-based stress reduction. You know, how you become aware of the moment. Mindfulness in some ways really does speak about a level of personal engagement. I don't think from a 25-minute webinar you're going to have a huge jump overall in engagement for yourself, overall in engagement for yourself and the organization. But I do hope that what I reminded you of is that authentic, powerful, personal engagement is only a moment away. It resides within the next moment. So what are you going to do in the next moment? Engage along with me. The best is yet to be. And in closing, I encourage you to ask yourself, what can I do right now to improve engagement for myself or someone else in the organization? And then turn that answer into an action or an interaction that helps you and the organization achieve results, build relationships, cultivate well-being, and develop career. I'm David Zinger. Thank you so much for being a part of this.